Welcome back to Everything NHL, the hockey segment of the Fantasy Fanatics Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and we're here with our hockey expert, James Kumar.
Hey, what's up, man?
This week we're going to recap Thursday's games, go over some of Friday's games, and list some that are underway. We'll talk about some fantasy playoff pickups. We'll talk about some news around the league, and then we will do a preview of Saturday's games. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's just hop right into it.
All right, so let's start with Thursday's games, starting with Dallas versus Tampa Bay. Pretty dominant performance by Tampa Bay. It was 3-0. The goalie got a shutout, so congratulations to the Tampa Bay goalie. In the first period, Andre Pallet got a goal. No goals in the second period, but in the third period, both Blake Coleman and Braden Point got two more goals for Tampa Bay. And what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the goalie for Tampa Bay in this game was Vasilevsky. I would think so because he got the shutout. So yeah, congrats to him. Looks like Tampa Bay should be rounding out into their playoff form. And then as for Dallas, this is a game where they really, uh, I guess, needed to get points, and they didn't even get a goal in this game. So I think it's going to be tough for Dallas to make the playoffs down the stretch. But yeah, good on Tampa for the win.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas did have the advantage of they still had a lot of games left, but if they keep losing, that advantage is going to go away real quick.
Yeah, I know that's the tough part. So I guess we'll have to see how things go for them down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we can move on to Buffalo versus Boston. It was a pretty dominant performance by Boston. Buffalo tried to put up a fight, but they were only able to get two goals. Boston was able to get five. In the first period, David Pasternak with a goal and David Krejci with a goal for Boston. Casey Middlestat with a goal for Buffalo. No goals in the second period. But in the third period, we had Sam Reinhart and Sam Reinhart for Buffalo, Taylor Hall for Boston, Charlie Coyle for Boston, and Brad Marchand for Boston as well. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, Boston's clearly the better team. They have such a favorable schedule down the stretch, and they're pretty much winning the games they need to win. So Boston's definitely looking like a solid team heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of games are like must win for Boston, and they might actually even take the third spot.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know the Islanders did try and hold them off for a little bit, but Boston's coming in and they got a favorable schedule ahead, so it is possible.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for Buffalo, this is just kind of trying to see what works on their team and what doesn't.
Yeah, pretty much. They're just playing out the final stretch of games for the season. Yeah, like you said, seeing, some of the young players, some guys that maybe need more ice time. They're just pretty much playing out the final stretch in my eyes.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess just moving on to Philadelphia versus the New Jersey Devils. Um, Very dominant performance by New Jersey. They were actually able to get the upset on Philadelphia, 5 goals to 3. In the first period, Yegor Sharangovich got 2 goals for New Jersey. In the second period, Scott Lawton got a goal for Philadelphia. Sean Couturier got a goal for Philadelphia. And Jesper Bogquist got a goal for New Jersey. In the third period, Pavel Zatra and Jesper Pratt both got a goal for New Jersey, and Travis Konechny was able to get a goal for Philadelphia. And what do you think about the New Jersey's performance?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely came to play in this game, put up great goal totals. A lot of the young players put up goals in this game. So it's nice to see that they're developing players. And then as for Philadelphia, just another gut punch in their terrible season. Yeah, this is pretty much going to be a season that Philadelphia is going to be looking to move on from coming to next year.
Yeah, I guess it was really disappointing for Philadelphia, especially considering how well they were doing at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, they were doing so well. The expectations were so high, and then pretty much everything came crashing to the ground. So they're definitely going to have to sort of rebuild the structure of the team heading into next year, and hopefully they can get back to where they were.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the Battle of New York, or I guess the Massacre of New York, the Islanders were able to beat the Rangers 4-0. So the Islanders goalie got a shutout, and yeah, wasn't really close. Leo Karmarov for the Islanders and Oliver Wahlstrom for the Islanders in the first period. And in the second period, Anthony Beauvillier got another goal for the Islanders. And in the third period, Matthew Barzal got another goal for the Islanders. Uh, the Rangers normally they play really well, but they just couldn't get anything done this game. So, what are your thoughts?
They were pretty much shut down by the Islanders' defensive structure. Like you mentioned, I think Semyon Varlamov was the goalie. He got the shutout. But yeah, this Islanders team just played really well. They only allowed 25 shots from the Rangers. Normally, the Rangers are lighting other teams up, and yeah, they just couldn't generate any offense in this game.
And I guess what do you think this says about New York's the Islanders' defense going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's no question they can play defense. The only question is, can they play offense? And in this game, I mean, getting 4 goals, that's good enough to win in the playoffs. So if they can learn how to do that consistently, then maybe they'll have a good chance at making a run.
I guess for the Rangers, their playoff hopes are getting farther and farther away. Boston, like I said before, they're not just going to let you take the spot from them, and now it's falling farther and farther away from the Rangers.
Yeah, that was pretty much a must-win game for the Rangers because if they had won that game and Boston would have lost theirs, Boston would have been at 62 points and the Rangers would have been at 60. But instead, Boston wins theirs, goes to 64, and the Rangers are still stuck at 58. So, like that really just was a wreck right into the Rangers' playoff hopes. And I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you got to do your part and win the games. They can't just be hoping the other teams will lose and then they can't get it done. You know, the Rangers were supposed to get it done, it didn't happen. So, I think that 5% playoff chance goes down to about 2%. So they pretty much have to win all the rest of their games and then just hope for Boston to lose at this point.
Yeah, I guess hoping to win all of their games is going to be a really tall order considering their schedule, too.
Yeah, I mean, you win your remaining 5 games, you get 68 points. Boston's at 64, and they still have 7 games left. So if they're at 64 points, you expect them not to win at least two looking at their schedule. I don't think it's possible. I think the playoffs pretty much locked up at this point. That win gave the Islanders pretty much almost a guarantee into the playoffs, and I think Boston will follow suit. Yeah, Rangers definitely have a lot of young talent. They can definitely look forward to playoffs next year.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Washington Capitals, classic rivalry. This time, Pittsburgh was able to come out on top by 1 goal. In the first period, TJ Oshie for Washington and Kasperi Kapanen for Pittsburgh. In the second period, Frederick Gaudreau for Pittsburgh and Zach Aston Reese for Pittsburgh as well. And for Washington, Dmitry Orlov and Daniel Sprong. In the third period, Kasperi Kapanen for Pittsburgh and Tom Wilson for Washington. And in overtime, Jake Gunsel was able to clutch the game out for Pittsburgh. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is interesting. No Alex Ovechkin for the Washington Capitals, and then even though Sidney Crosby was in the lineup, no points for him. But it was a pretty much a team effort for the Penguins to get the win. I know that Tom Wilson tied it up with like 15 seconds left in the game to send it to overtime. So it's a good rally by Washington, but they just couldn't get it done. Pittsburgh wins this game 5-4, and I believe that put them at the top of the division. Well, no, they're tied with Washington. Washington's got 1 game in hand, but yeah, those two are battling it out for that first seed.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, do you think this is kind of like a sign of anything to come for, I guess, both Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin?
Yeah, I mean, both of them should be back in rhythm for the playoffs. I feel like that this is probably going to be the second round matchup. If both teams can get out of the first round against either the Islanders or the Boston Bruins, then it would. I mean, it'd be great to see them battle it out in a series again. They've met in the second round so many times over the years between Crosby and Ovechkin, so it would definitely be something nice to see for sure. Almost like a renewed old rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to see this rivalry for many more years, especially with the age of these two players.
Yeah, absolutely. These are two stars of their generations, and it's great to see them battle over the years.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the Detroit Red Wings versus the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes were able to beat the Red Wings 3-1. No goals in the first period, but there was a goal for Carolina by Brady Skay and Warren Fiegel, and a goal by Jacob Vrana. And in the second period and in the third period, Tuvo Teravainen was able to get a goal for Carolina. And I guess, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty dominant game by Carolina. Um, yeah, Teravainen in his game back, he scored. Yeah, so it's pretty much just a solid effort from Carolina. They've been doing it all year. And Detroit's just been bad on the road, so it's pretty much a no brainer for Carolina to win this. So yeah, congrats to them.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's just been so consistently good. And I feel like they're a little bit slept on for how good they are.
Yeah, everyone likes Tampa Bay in that division, but I think Carolina actually has the defensive prowess as well as their offensive firepower to maybe give Tampa Bay a scare there if they do meet up at some point in the playoffs. Definitely, Tampa has the edge in goaltending, so they'd have to pretty much get amazing goaltending from one of their three goalies, whichever one they start, whether it's Reimer or Mrazek or Nedeljkovic. So we'll definitely have to see that. But other than that, the Hurricanes are solid all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely going to be, I guess, a sleeper team, which is kind of weird to say considering how good they are.
Yeah, I mean, sleeper team. They are the first seed in that division. Obviously, Tampa Bay probably would have been if they've had Stamkos and Kucherov for the whole season. But I mean, if one or two of those players come back, I still think that Tampa Bay might edge out the Hurricanes. But it's definitely going to be a tough fought series if they do face.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the Maple Leafs versus the Canucks, I'm sure you're really happy about this. The Leafs were able to beat the Canucks 4-1.
Yeah, I was juggling between this game and the NFL draft, trying to keep up with both on Thursday night. But yeah, definitely good win for the Leafs. I know that they had some load management for some of their players in this game. But a lot of the big stars played. Just looking at some of the scores here, William Nylander in the first period, Austin Matthews, Pierre Engvall in the second period for the Leafs. It was 3-0. Then JT Miller scored for the Vancouver Canucks on the power play, and then Mitch Marner added a goal in the last minute of the third period for the Leafs to make it 4-1. And I mean, yeah, a lot of their stars up front played. I know some of their defensemen rested in this game, as well as goalie Jack Campbell. David Riddick was solid in this game. And yeah, the Canucks are slipping. I don't even think they'll make the playoffs at this point.
I mean, hopefully they'll be able to kind of play spoiler at this point.
Since those two victories the Canucks had over the Leafs a couple weeks ago, they've lost 3 out of 4 against Ottawa, plus this game against Toronto. So they've lost 4 out of 5 games, and that's not going to help you get into the playoffs. Especially, I know we'll get to Friday night's games. Montreal had a big win on Friday night, so I think the Canucks might be out of it soon.
Yeah, and I think they have to face the Oilers 4 times, so
Oh
it's
man,
going to be
yeah.
really rough.
That's gonna be the Connor McDavid show and Leon Draisaitl. Like those two are gonna finish 1 and 2 in the scoring. Like it's pretty obvious at this point.
Yeah, so I guess for Vancouver, it's just try to play out the stretch and do what you can.
Exactly.
And I guess we can move on to St. Louis versus the Minnesota Wild. another very close game. St. Louis was able to take this game in overtime. In the first period for St. Louis, Sammy Blaze. In the second period, Tyler Bozak for St. Louis and Marco Scandella for St. Louis, and Joel Eriksson Ek for Minnesota. In the third period, Kevin Fiala for Minnesota, Victor Rask for Minnesota, and Kirill Kaprizov for Minnesota, and Ryan O'Reilly for St. Louis. And Ryan O'Reilly was able to clutch the game out in overtime to help the Blues win. So, what are your thoughts on these two teams?
Yeah, clutch captain Ryan O'Reilly with two goals, one in the third and one in overtime to give St. Louis the win. They've won four in a row. They've beaten Minnesota two games straight. Um, yeah, this St. Louis team really wants to make that fourth spot in the West. And I mean, with guys getting healthy for them, they can definitely make it in and potentially give a scare to the first seed, whether it's Vegas or whether it's Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, the Blues are another team where it's like they're pretty good and they might be able to make a couple of upsets.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that just won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. They're not far removed from it. They've just had an injury-plagued season, which is why they're not up there with the top end teams like Vegas and Colorado. But I mean, if they can sneak into the playoffs, anything can happen at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for Minnesota, what are your thoughts on them?
Honestly, it's just a loss that they can shake off. It was in overtime, so they still get a point. They're still firmly in the third spot in that division. I don't think they really need to be worried at this point. They've clinched their playoff spot already. They're just playing out the remaining stretch of the games.
For sure. And I guess we can move on to Florida versus Chicago. Um, let's see. Florida was able to, I guess, win in overtime against Chicago. So very clutch. Adam got at for Chicago in the first period. In the second period, Vinny Hinestrona for Chicago, and for Florida, Alex Wenberg and Anthony Declaire. And in the third period, Alex DeBrinket for Chicago and Brandon Montour for Florida. And Sam Bennett was able to clutch the game out for Florida in overtime. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Sam Bennett, since he got traded to Florida, seems like he's really fitting in there. I believe he's on the second line there, just playing so solid right now. Yeah, this Florida team, they've clearly gotten better. Um, and I mean, even with injuries, they're still winning games. Chicago's pretty much out of the playoff race at this point. I wouldn't really count them in. Um, yeah, this is pretty much a solid Florida team that if Tampa Bay is not fully healthy in the first round, they actually have a threat of taking out Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, this is real again another really good team that Tampa Bay was gonna have to go up against. So they really have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I mean, we've never seen a battle of Florida in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs since both teams are relatively new to the league. Both of them came in the 90s, and usually when one was good, the other one wasn't. But it's interesting how this year both of them have very good teams. So if we do see them face, whether it's in the first round of the playoffs or something, that'll be really great to see. Maybe develop that rivalry that people always sort of wished that was there. If they have a playoff series against each other, I think it'll be pretty electric. The two fan bases will definitely clash in the state.
Yeah, I can definitely see a rivalry happening, especially if both teams continue to be as dominant as they are.
Yeah, this is the first time I've really seen Florida as a dominant team in their history. I mean, they went to the Cup final once, but no one really expected them to win that series, anyways. So yeah, this is Florida's best chance at making a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess hopefully we can see more of Florida in the playoffs for sure.
Oh yeah, with that young core, and I guess Bill Zito could even be GM of the year. John Quenville could be Coach of the year. With the way those two have just changed around this organization, it's a pretty great thing to see. Florida was never taken seriously at the beginning of this season. I know in many predictions we didn't really have them as a top tier team, but they've played their way into a top tier spot in this division.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to another regional rivalry, we have The classic, another battle of Alberta, the Calgary Flames versus the Edmonton Oilers. Calgary was able to win by 2 goals this time. So, very good upset by Calgary. Elias Lindholm was able to get a goal for Calgary in the first period, and James Neal got a goal for Edmonton. In the second period, Lindholm got another goal, and in the third period, Dylan Dubé got another goal for Calgary, and Edmonton wasn't able to get a goal outside of the first period. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of Calgary's last shots at trying to get into the playoffs, so I think it was pretty much a must win for them. The Oilers just had an off night. I expect that they'll bounce back if there's a rematch between these teams. Whether it's Saturday, we haven't looked at the slate yet, but if there is, I think I would side with the Oilers there. One off night doesn't dictate the way a team's playing, and I think that definitely Calgary was the team that came to play in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Oilers haven't gotten their spot yet, so they can't really be too relaxed. So I guess going forward, they're gonna have to bring their A game against the Flames.
I mean, there's no way McDavid and Draisaitl are held without a point in the next meeting. There's no way I see that happening again. Calgary just played solid defense, but I don't expect that to be a consistent thing. I just expect that they're going to bring their A game.
Yeah, and I guess for Calgary, they're still fighting for their lives, so they're gonna be playing exactly as hard as they did this game.
Oh, I would hope so. It's going to be tougher though for them to win the next game. I think. I feel like they caught the Oilers by surprise, but the Oilers will definitely come more prepared for the next game.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how many tricks the coach has up his sleeve for the next coming game.
It's going to be tough. They're 6 points back of Montreal. They play the same amount of games. Yeah, it's really going to be tough at this point for either Calgary. Well, I mean, even Ottawa's ahead of Vancouver now, so like it's just getting embarrassing for the Canucks. I know they have lots of games to play still, but and they probably will finish ahead of Ottawa. But yeah, it's just been so tough for the Canucks.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to, I guess, two more playoff hopeful teams. Montreal was able to get their win against Winnipeg, so congratulations to the Montreal Canadiens. They were able to win 5-3. Paul Stastny for Winnipeg in the first period. And in the second period, there was a bunch of goals. Trevor Lewis, 2 goals for Winnipeg. Nick Suzuki, a goal from Montreal. Arturi Lehkonen for Montreal. And Joel Armia for Montreal as well. In the third period, Nick Suzuki got a second goal from Montreal of this game, and Tyler Toffoli got another goal. And Montreal was able to go away with a win. So I guess what are your thoughts on Montreal's performance?
It's not really my thoughts on Montreal's performance. It's my thoughts on Winnipeg's performance. They were up 3-1 in the second period and they just gave the game away. This has been happening regularly for the Jets. Jets have lost 6 games in a row. This seems to be an issue here. I know they were definitely being outshot a lot in games, but yet they were still winning somehow. And I wondered how long it was going to continue. And now the team just really seems to be falling apart now that teams have been just really outplaying them at certain portions of the game. And I mean, this game, Montreal outshot them by 13 shots. So when you only shoot 22 times on the goalie, they still got 3 goals. So they did pretty good for the amount of shots. But Montreal took 35 shots. They clearly were playing like the better team. And I mean, the Jets really need to do something to turn this around because I don't know whether Montreal is going to catch them, but I think it's definitely possible at this point. Montreal, they're only 4 points behind the Jets with a game in hand. So if they somehow win that game in hand, they're only 2 points behind. And if the Jets keep slipping, I don't know if the Jets will slip right out of the playoffs, but they'll definitely fall to the fourth seed, and then they're pretty much pray for the Leafs in the first round. So.
Yeah, I guess they're gonna have to figure out something because you can't be having only 22 shots in a game. That's pretty much a recipe to lose, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty much embarrassing at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, for the Canadians, do you think that they can kind of continue this kind of performance going forward?
We'll have to see. They really do need Carey Price to come back. There's no question about that. But yeah, um, I think that they definitely would want to get that third seed because I think definitely Edmonton is the easier matchup than Toronto because of how dominant Toronto has been this season. So um, uh, when it comes to those two teams, getting the third seed should be priority.
Yeah, for sure. And the Jets, this is like the worst time to be in a slump, so they got to figure something out.
Yeah, you never wanted to go. You never want to go into the playoffs on a slump. That's definitely not something you want to do. And if Montreal starts winning games and they get hot, they might even have a chance to upset the Oilers if they face them in the first round.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess there are still a few more games underway, so we won't really cover those. I think Colorado is up 2 goals in the third period against San Jose. Um, Arizona is actually up 1 goal against Vegas, so that's surprising. And Anaheim is in a power play in the second period with a goal against the Los Angeles Kings. So I guess we'll move on to, I guess, our fantasy playoff pickups. So I guess we'll start with you, and then we'll just go back and forth by one team.
Yeah, for sure. We're just looking at some teams that you can look at taking players from for the fantasy playoffs. These teams have pretty favorable schedules. So I'll start with the Nashville Predators. Their upcoming schedule is against the Dallas Stars, 2 games against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and 2 games against the Carolina Hurricanes to end the season. You might say, oh, they got 2 games against Carolina. I don't want to pick up the players. But it's the last 2 games of the season. Carolina has their playoff spot locked up. There's the potential of them resting players. So Nashville can actually pull off some clutch wins there, and you can get some clutch goals if you touch some of their players in fantasy. So definitely go pick them up. One player, for example, I have is Mikael Granlund. He can play all 3 forward positions, center, left wing, and right wing for you. He's just over 10% owned in Yahoo League, so he's definitely a bit of a deep league pickup. Definitely someone you can look at in a shallow league if you're planning on dropping someone from a team that doesn't have many games for the coming week in fantasy, like someone from the Calgary Flames. I believe they only have 1 or 2 games next week. Um, so yeah, definitely Granlund, someone you can look at. I guess in his last few games, he's pretty much had 1 or 2 points in his last 5 games. Yeah, in his last 5 games, he's either had 1 or 2 points. He's pretty much been like a +2 in those games total. He's had pretty much 2 or 3 shots in all of those games. And the guy's throwing like almost 2 hits a game. So you're definitely getting category coverage from this guy. He can play all 3 positions. You can slot him wherever you need him at forward. So definitely check out Mikael Granlund as an example from the Nashville Predators.
All right. Mikael Granlund from the Nashville Predators. That sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess my pickup is, I guess I'll start with St. Louis. They have some good defensemen for sure, and their schedule is pretty decent. I think the Minnesota game is postponed, so I guess their other games going forward is going to be the Ducks twice. They have the Vegas twice, and they have the Kings. So Vegas is going to be pretty tough, but they have the Ducks twice and the Kings, so that's I think pretty favorable for St. Louis. And I guess a good example of a defenseman that you can pick up from St. Louis would be Colton Pareko. He for the season so far he's got 1 goal, 9 assists. He's +1 with 45 shots. He gets a decent amount of hits. He gets a decent amount of shots for a defenseman. Gets a lot of assists. So I think he's definitely someone that you want to take a look at. And if you're not really feeling Pareko, there's some other defensemen on St. Louis as well. And who's your next?
Yeah, next I talked about them for the last like 1 or 2 weeks. So I'll definitely mention them again, and that's the Boston Bruins. I really like the Bruins for their schedule. For their upcoming games, they have Buffalo. They have New Jersey twice, and they have the New York Rangers twice. The Rangers should be eliminated by then, so I don't know how many of their starters they'll play. Boston should be fighting for a higher seed, so definitely Boston will have something to play for. So definitely roll out your Bruins players. I mentioned Jeremy Swayman last week. I will mention him again. He's starting in goal for that game against Buffalo. That should be a pretty easy W, assuming that he has a good average and the Bruins play well. So yeah, definitely roll out Swayman into your lineups for Saturday. And yeah, I guess just going forward, just check when he's starting games. He's been playing really well in his rookie season, and definitely there's some other Bruins players you can look at if Craig Smith's not owned in your league. If guys like Grizzlick and others, you can just take a look. Any Boston player you find on the waivers um, should be able to give you some type of production. I know David Krejci's really turned it on recently. He's another guy you can look at if you need centers. And yeah, Boston just overall has a great schedule. So definitely look at them for the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess another player from the East that someone should definitely take a look at, I think, would be the New York Islanders. They have a very favorable schedule and they have good shallow league availability, I think. So far they have the Rangers, Sabres twice, and the New Jersey Devils twice. So very favorable schedule for the New York Islanders. They should be competitive, if not dominant, against all of those teams. A good example, I think, for the New York Islanders that you can kind of take a look at would be Jean Gabriel Pajot. He's about 45% rostered right now, but he's ranked 96. He has 14 goals, 14 assists. He's plus nine. He has 76 shots. And for a center, he gets plenty of hits, plenty of shots. Occasionally gets power play points, but doesn't happen all the time. His plus minus is really good, especially considering how hot New York Islanders have been. And with their very favorable schedule, his plus minus is going to be really good. Gets a lot of goals, gets a lot of assists, gets plenty of ice time. So definitely take a look at Pajot or any other Islander player. And back to you.
Yeah, I got one more team here, and it's the Arizona Coyotes. Their schedule is pretty favorable. I know they have one game against the Golden Knights coming up. That's probably their only difficult matchup. The rest of their matchups are the LA Kings twice and the San Jose Sharks twice. So, two teams they can definitely take advantage of. So definitely check them out. I have Alex Goligoski here at defense. I'll just double check his roster percentage. He's under 40% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He's been added almost 10% in the last week. Jump on this guy, deep leagues, shallow leagues, whatever you need. This guy, he's been putting up points. His plus minus has been pretty solid over the season. I believe he's a plus five on the season. He has 65 shots and 67 hits on the season. So you're getting equal production at both categories. So definitely he's pretty much a must add if you need defense for the fantasy playoffs. And definitely check out other Arizona players, guys like Phil Kessel. You can check out Aiden Hill if you need emergency starts for your goalies because he's getting in some starts. So yeah, those are just some people you can check out for the Coyotes.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess another team with another very favorable schedule, Edmonton Oilers. Their schedule is the Calgary Flames and the Canucks four times. So um, basically, it's just going to be a show for the Edmonton Oilers. They shouldn't really have too much trouble against the Canucks, as much as I hate to say it. Maybe there might be a couple of upsets, but Edmonton is going to be very competitive for sure. And against the Flames, it's going to be a really good game. So Edmonton's going to be on their A game for sure. And I guess a good example of a player that you can get would be Jesse Puljujärvi. Um, for the season, he has 12 goals, 9 assists. He's plus five with 97 shots, and he's only 20% rostered. So, very good deep league pick. And even in a shallow league pick, you might want to take a look at him. Gets plenty of hits, plenty of shots. His plus minus should be really good, especially considering he's gonna uh, be on. the the Oilers, and the Oilers have a very good schedule. Gets a lot of assists, a lot of goals, a lot of ice time. So yeah, definitely take a look at either Puljujärvi or anybody else on the Edmonton Oilers. And I guess we can move on to kind of some general news around the league. I guess the Kraken are officially an NHL team.
Yeah, Seattle Kraken, they joined the NHL on Friday. They made their final expansion payment. So by doing that, they've paid their full expansion fee and they can now make trades with other teams leading up to the expansion draft. We'll definitely cover the expansion draft on this podcast after the Stanley Cup playoffs are finished. So definitely something to look forward to see which players they take off of teams. It's definitely exciting. We'll see what trades get done with Seattle. I believe they can trade with teams once they're eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think that I'm pretty sure those are the rules. So you might see some draft pick trades and so on, because I think teams will want to trade draft picks if they don't want a player to get taken by Seattle. Sort of like a little bribe type of thing.
I guess the last expansion team was the Vegas Golden Knights, and they've been dominant just from their inception. So, how strong do you think the Kraken are going to be?
I don't think any expansion team can replicate what the Vegas Golden Knights did, because there's been so many expansion teams over the years in the NHL, and Vegas is the only one that had that great of a season, went to the Cup final, and so on. But Seattle definitely wants to be competitive. I think they will be competitive. Will they be a playoff team? It's kind of hard to say until we look at the general makeup of the team. But yeah, they definitely should be competitive. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess from they have I guess a lot of NHL history to kind of look back on, look at what other expansion teams did, look at what Vegas did. They won't be able to do everything that Vegas did, but they will probably have their own tricks for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, at least that city of Seattle has some hockey history. I know the Seattle Metropolitans were a team back in the early 1900s. So definitely, there is a pretty extensive hockey history with that city. Obviously, they haven't had a team in over 100 years. So it's definitely going to be exciting for the Seattle area to sort of have their own team again. Um, and yeah, congratulations to the Seattle Kraken. They're a part of the NHL now.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we can move on to the standings. And I guess we can start with the Central League. So I guess what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's just take a look at the Central Division. Carolina, Florida, and Tampa Bay have all locked up playoff spots for the top three spots. Obviously, they can finish the season in any order as they're all 3 points apart. Then for that fourth seed, I think it's pretty much between Nashville and Dallas. Dallas is 2 points behind with one game in hand. If they win that game, those two teams will be tied. And then we'll, I guess, have to see which team would sort of win that tiebreaker stat to sort of get in. I think Chicago being 6 points back is it's just a little too difficult for them. They definitely have a pretty tough schedule as well. So I think it's between Nashville and Dallas for that final playoff spot.
Yeah, I guess both Nashville and Dallas have their work cut out. And I think Dallas doesn't have the easiest schedule either. So they're going to be have to be on their A game for sure.
Yeah, we just talked about Nashville having a favorable schedule. So they're in the driver's seat right now. It's their spot to lose at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the West Division, what do you see so far?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Vegas, Colorado, and Minnesota have locked up the top three spots. Vegas has really pushed ahead in this division, up by 6 points as we speak. Colorado should move ahead of Minnesota after Friday night's result. So they should be in second. Minnesota should be in third, barring any movement between those teams. Then it's pretty much between St. Louis, Arizona, and maybe San Jose. I know San Jose. Um, they're still quite a few points behind. They are 7 points behind. And St. Louis has two games in hand on them after Friday night. So it's just going to be so tough for either Arizona or San Jose to get it done. But Arizona has a favorable schedule, so it is possible. But the way St. Louis has been playing, they've been beating top level teams. I mean, they just beat Minnesota twice. They beat Colorado last week. I believe one or two times they beat Colorado. They've just been playing outstanding hockey. I think St. Louis should be that fourth seed.
Yeah, and St. Louis, they don't have a hard schedule either. So I mean, aside from like maybe
I think
I guess
Vegas
like
it was.
yeah,
Was it
they
Vegas?
have
Yeah.
Vegas, so that's like their hardest team, but then they have the Ducks and the Kings, so it's like they have there's like three games that it's a really high probability that they can win.
Yeah, so I think also with them getting healthier and healthier, the St. Louis team sort of rounding into form right before the playoffs, that could actually make them dangerous heading into the playoffs to sort of upset a team.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the North, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just taking a look at the North Division, Toronto's the only team that's clinched playoffs so far. They're 9 points ahead of the second place Oilers. They should have that division locked down, but we'll definitely have to see. With the Oilers having so many games against Vancouver, I guess we just don't know. The Oilers should be able to get second seed at least. Um, I mean, they have what, 8 games left. They're at 60 points. Yeah. The Jets have been sliding. They're at 57, and Montreal's at 53. It's going to be tough for either Calgary or Vancouver to get in. I think Ottawa's pretty much done for just because they've played too many games. But yeah, I think those four teams should be the playoff teams. It's just going to depend on what order.
Yeah, and I guess for Ottawa, what teams do you think that they can spoil their playoff hopes for?
I guess whoever's on their schedule, definitely. I know that they do play Calgary. I'm not sure who else they play coming up, but at least I think they play Calgary. They might have another game against Vancouver. I'm not 100% sure, but I guess yeah, they just want to play spoiler. I believe they also have games against Montreal. Starting with Saturday's slate. So yeah, they have some teams still left on their slate. I don't know the exact teams, but yeah, they can definitely play spoiler.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the East, it's been pretty much the teams that you expect, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, both Washington and Pittsburgh have clinched the playoffs already. Both of them at 69 points. Obviously, Washington has that game in hand, which is sort of giving them the edge. Either of these two teams can win the division. The other one should be the second seed. Then the third seed is between the New York Islanders and the Boston Bruins. So definitely we'll have to see which of these two teams can sort of outduel each other for that third seed.
Yeah. And I guess, as we said, New York Rangers, their hopes are just getting farther and farther behind.
Yeah, they're just a little too far, and they've just played a few too many games. They only have 5 games left. It's not going to get them past Boston, in my mind. Boston's got 7 games, and if they get 2 wins, they put away the Rangers. And with their schedule, that should happen.
Yeah. But I mean, might as well just go out with a bang. You already went so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, by the time Boston even plays the Rangers, I think it could pretty much be decided by then. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for the Rangers to even try and get in.
Yeah. Kind of unfortunate, but I guess just try to play things out one game at a time and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that.
All right. And I guess we can, go over some previews for Saturday's games. And I guess we can start with the Buffalo Sabres versus the Boston Bruins. I guess we can expect Boston to beat Buffalo again.
Yeah, I think that that's going to happen. Obviously, an upset is possible, but Boston's at home. I don't think they should lose this.
Sounds good. And I guess moving on to Tampa Bay versus Detroit. Um, I guess we can kind of expect Tampa Bay to beat Detroit.
They should be able to, as long as Andre Vasilevsky is in net. If he's not in net, I could see a Detroit upset. They are at home. They have been playing better at home, so definitely look at the goalies. I guess before, if you want to wager on this game or whatever, look at the goalies. I would kind of side with Detroit if Vasilevsky's not in net for Tampa because they just haven't played as well in front of McElhaney. But yeah, if Vasilevsky's playing, Tampa should easily take this.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the Rangers versus the Islanders again. The Islanders were able to get a shutout against the Rangers, but do you think the Rangers have a chance?
It's going to be tough. The Islanders are at home. They're so much better at home. I'm surprised they won on the road. Um, yeah, I don't know how much life the Rangers have left in them. I'm sort of leaning towards Islanders in this game, but I think this game actually could go either way.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the New Jersey Devils versus Philadelphia Flyers. Do you think New Jersey can pull another upset on the Flyers?
It's going to be tough because I know New Jersey was at home for that last game. The Flyers are home, so I'm kind of feeling the Islanders here. I know they've ruled goalie Hart out for the rest of the season, but I think Brian Elliott should be getting the start here, and I think they should be able to take care of business in this game. So yeah, Philadelphia.
For sure. And I guess moving on to Pittsburgh versus the Capitals, another rivalry. Who do you think can take it?
I mean, if Alex Ovechkin plays, I definitely like Washington at home, but Pittsburgh's just been so hot. So if Ovechkin doesn't play, I actually kind of like Pittsburgh in this game.
Sounds good. And I guess moving on to Columbus versus Carolina. I guess Carolina's been so consistently good, so I guess we can just kind of uh, assume that they're gonna win
Yeah, assuming no one sits, yeah, play Carolina here at home.
for sure. And I guess moving on to Ottawa versus Montreal, do you think Ottawa can play spoiler?
Um, it's very tough to say actually. Montreal is the home team, but they definitely played Friday night. So yeah, Ottawa's actually been playing better. I wouldn't rule out a win from Ottawa here actually. I could actually lean with them. This is very possible. Montreal coming off a back to back. Yeah, I remember what Ottawa did to them the last time they came off a back to back, and I think it's very possible Ottawa wins this game.
All right. Sounds pretty interesting. It's definitely a game to watch.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
And moving on to Vancouver versus the Maple Leafs. I guess we can expect the Maple Leafs to win this as well.
Yeah, as assuming Jack Campbell's back in the lineup, yeah, that should be easy W for the Leafs.
All right. And I guess moving on to San Jose versus Colorado, we can expect the Avalanche to kind of bury this game.
Uh, Assuming Philip Grubauer plays again, if one of their backup goalies plays, that definitely does give the Sharks a bit of a chance. Especially in terms of bounce back appeal. I believe that the Avalanche were winning when I checked the game last. I believe that game might be final now. So yeah, definitely check the goaltending for this one as well. And if you see that you like sort of the goaltending matchup for the Sharks, you could lean there. But yeah, Colorado is definitely the better team in this case. It would just depend on how the Sharks play.
For sure. And I guess moving on to St. Louis versus Minnesota. Had a really close game last time, but who do you think can take it this time?
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be tough. I would have leaned Minnesota, but St. Louis has just been playing so well. It might depend on the goaltending matchup, honestly. If it is Talbot against Binnington, maybe you do go with St. Louis just because Talbot has not played well against St. Louis. If St. Louis plays their backup, though, just take Minnesota. Their backup hasn't played well this year, but if Binnington does play, I might like St. Louis here.
For sure. And I guess moving on to Florida versus Chicago. Do you think Florida can take this game as well?
Yeah, this game could go either way. Chicago is better at home. It honestly will just depend on I guess who Chicago starts in net and how they come out to play for this game. If they've given up on their playoff hopes, I think Florida should be able to take care of them. But if they're still trying to push for the playoffs, I think you could see a win from Chicago here.
For sure. And I guess moving on to two teams who we just said they're both fighting for a playoff spot, Dallas versus Nashville. Who do you think can take this?
Yeah, this is definitely a really tough matchup between these two teams. It's very tough to say actually. This game is one of it's like a coin flip game. You probably just have to flip a coin on this game and then just see who's gonna win because I honestly don't know. It'll depend on a lot of factors. It'll depend on goalies. It'll depend on who's playing. Um, yeah, I really couldn't tell you. Maybe give an edge to Nashville because they're home, but that's about it.
Yeah, I guess it's just an anything can happen kind of game.
Yeah, if you can't decide between two teams, and you even looked at the goaltending and you can't decide, just take the home team. That's probably where you should lean at this point.
For sure. And I guess moving on to Vegas versus Arizona. Vegas was able to clutch it against Arizona last time, but do you think they can do it again?
It'll honestly depend on the result of Friday's game. You might look for a bounce back appeal there. I mean, Marc Andre Fleury will probably start in this game for Vegas, so I think it could be a pretty decisive win for the Vegas Golden Knights in this game. So I guess definitely keep an eye on Friday's result and just who the goaltenders are.
For sure. And I guess moving on to Los Angeles versus Anaheim. Who do you think can take this game?
I think I like the team to bounce back from whoever wins the Friday night matchup. I know we're not going to cover the results of that, but yeah, whoever wins, I'd probably take the other team to sort of bounce back.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the Battle of Alberta, who do you think can take this game?
Yeah, I like Edmonton. They're at home and they lost the last game. They're pretty much going to come out a lot more prepared to play.
For sure. And I guess that about wraps everything up. And I guess we only have the pool to take a look at now.
Yeah, let's take a look at the pool actually. Definitely leading up to the last sort of weeks of the season, I am on top now, ahead of our injury expert Victoria by 3 points. So definitely, I made a nice comeback there after I had slipped a bit because of injuries. I'm now on top. So if I do win, I sort of, I guess, keep my title of hockey expert, live up to the name kind of thing. But yeah, if I do win, yeah, we'll definitely do some special playoff type preview or whatever. We'll definitely have something special.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that about concludes this installment of Everything NHL. If you watch us on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell, and you can get notifications of our videos every week. If you prefer to listen to us on a podcast, you can follow us on Spotify. You can follow us on Apple Music. You can follow us on Google Podcasts as well. Um, I guess you can also follow us on Twitter for our daily picks for NHL and NBA, and you can follow us on Instagram as well for same thing, picks for NHL and for NBA. I guess tune in next time for some more recaps, some more fantasy playoff pickups, and some more previews and some more general news around the league.
Yeah, for sure. Handle on Twitter and Instagram is at FanFanPodcast for those that need to find us. And yeah, we'll definitely catch you guys on the next episode.